So we have we haven't asked Jen and Dan in a while, but we happen to get one out of the blue that's kind of a tough topic to cover. In that, how do you, either man or woman, broach the subject of marriage when you are in a long-term relationship, and we're talking 5 years plus. You live together. There's kids involved. Your partner doesn't seem to be even remotely interested in the idea or the prospect of marriage. Uh, may not feel the need to get married because everything else is already there: the kids, the sex life, the financial life, the living together. Why get married? You hear statements sometimes in our society that if you ever want to mess up a really good relationship, get married. There seems to be a real backlash against the marriage, but the marriage idea sometimes in our society. But how do you actually breach that subject with your partner? I know from a guy's point of view, and I want to make this clear. These are our opinions. They are not the end all be all answer to the question. You can ask 5 different people their opinion on this question, and they're going to give you 5 different answers. In this particular case, I know from a guy's point of view, and maybe it's a little chauvinistic, if you're a woman and find yourself in this situation, don't propose to your man. That may get you an automatic knee-jerk reaction no, especially if he's more of a traditional guy. I don't know that he is, because he's living with you with kids versus being married to you.
And there could be no kids involved too, though.
Well, there could be no kids
involved. You just
involved.
could be like together and.
Right. Sorry, I'm gonna take the glasses off. Yeah, there could be no kids involved, or you may not be living together. You just may be long-term relationship.
Committed but not married.
Right. I would say if marriage is what you want and is on your radar, is on your horizons, it's actually what your overall goal is for this relationship, is to start broaching the subject with him in a way that is not confrontational.
So you're saying that if you're a girl in a long-term relationship,
talking to your
man,
mm-hmm.
don't propose, because it could be a knee-jerk reaction.
Like an automatic no. Even though he may be like, yeah, I want to, but it could be a knee-jerk reaction no, and that could shut down the entire conversation from then on. It could even result in a breakup.
So you're saying, in lieu of proposing to the guy,
broach the subject with him.
Start the conversation at some point.
Yeah. And start letting your intentions be known. I am willing to bet that if you are in a long-term relationship and marriage is something that you want, that your partner is not oblivious to it. It's already come up in the past. And if it hasn't, then you need to be a little bit more forward about what you want. Because sometimes there are relationships where that just isn't the case. People are very meek in the relationship. Sometimes it can appear that people get walked all over or stepped on. That may not be the case. That just may be how personality is. This is a really, really complicated
It's very
subject.
complicated. So I would maybe throw out this conversation to you, Dan, is that, maybe you can discuss potential fears as to maybe why the person isn't proposing to the girl. Like, do you think it could be a fear of things changing?
See, I'm cynical.
Is it a fear of... No, there's a couple of things I had in mind.
I know, but...
Is it a fear? How was his relationship with his parents? Was his parents... Did they have a rocky marriage, or did they not stay together?
I'm cynical. Guys, to me, are not difficult. Guys are simple. And I'm not trying to be rude or mean or anything like that. Go ahead.
My question to you directly is, did you ever feel like, oh, I'm never going to get married? Or were you one of those guys that wanted to be married? Is it something
I wanted to be married. But then again, my parents died after 52 years of marriage, 13 days apart. They got married when they were 18 and 23 and were married for 52 years. So listen, their relationship was not a fairy tale. I remember one time my brother and I basically ran away from home because we thought my dad hit my mom. But what happened is something had fallen off the counter in the kitchen, so we split. We actually just ran around the block and came home like
Running
10
away.
minutes later. We were young, but we ran around the block and came home 10 minutes later. But you know, it wasn't a fairy tale relationship, but they were married. You know.
Do you think that men saying that they're scared of marriage is a real thing, or do you think that they're scared of marriage because they might not be with the right person? What is your perspective on that?
I'm cynical on it. If I have everything I want out of the relationship, why get married? If I have the kids and the house and the cars and the finances and the sex and the girlfriend and everything's there, why get married? Why? Unfortunately, the way our tax system is set up, it's better to be single than married. I don't know if that's always true.
And depending where you live, what country you live in, or...
I'm not talking about country. I'm talking about the United States. I'm talking about Western.
With regards to
there's other countries that if you're a woman that's living with a guy, that's not going to happen. I'm talking about the United States. I'm talking about Western society. Mm-hmm. So that's one aspect of it. Why get married? I don't have to. I mean, she's going to give me kids. She's going to give me sex. She's going to give me the relationship. We're going to have a house together. We're going to have cars together. Why get married? That's one aspect. Number two, I just don't want to marry you. I'll have everything else with you. I just have no desire to marry you. Why? What's the point? What's the purpose? In that particular situation, that may be that you're just in the wrong relationship, and it's a relationship out of convenience. It's easier to stay together than it is to break up. For whatever reason, how far that relationship has progressed. If it's still, you have your own two places, your lives are still separated in that regard, I think it may be a little bit easier to make a change in the relationship. But if you've taken the step, which we've already covered in a different video, where you've moved in together, you've greatly increased your chances of actually separating. I think it's like, I believe the last time we checked the statistics, between divorces and breakups, when you live together, is like 75% of all relationships that live together before they're married end up splitting. So it just, I don't know, I'm kind of rambling, but it depends. It's easier to break a relationship if it's not if you're not living together. But so my thought is that maybe you're just not with the right person. Number three is maybe, and unfortunately I have heard this from many. I'm not in a place in my life to get married right now. I don't need that kind of response. I hear this from my guy friends. I'm almost 50 years old and I still hear this crap. You are never going to be in a place when you are ready to be married. When by the time you are in that place, you're 80.
Right. And in fact, I think even having kids is one of those questions too. I'll never be in a financial place to have kids. But I think financially, the kids is harder. So if you can do the kids thing, I think you can swing the marriage thing.
Okay, so...
Just saying as far as finances go.
Well,
kids, they need quite a bit.
Oh, God,
diapers, bottles,
not just that.
binkies.
Yeah, clothes, food.
The new iPhone.
Yeah.
So I have a few questions.
One thing I wanted to say, I don't know how it is for the younger generations. It's not so old. But I know my generation and later generations, men stepped up. You got married, then you got a better job. You made more money, you worked 2 jobs, you did what you had to do to make sure that your responsibilities were being met. I just listened to this thing today from Jordan Peterson talking about the responsibilities of men. One of the things that men do is that they step up to the responsibilities if they have that responsibility. If they don't have a responsibility, it's like being a sled dog without a sled to pull. So I know for myself, when I had the responsibility of being married, especially the first time around, I went from making hardly anything to, I was making like 15 to 20,000 a year, and overnight went from doing that to making 43,000 a year. That was back in 1998. Back then, that was a decent amount of money. I could have, my ex-wife wouldn't have had to work if she didn't want to. The income just went up from there. You had kids, you made things work, you adjust things, and your income continues to go up because the responsibilities continue to increase. So if I ever waited until I was ready to have kids, or if I was ready to be married, I'd still be single. Mm-hmm. Just the way it is. And then one last thing is, you may be dealing with a commitment to phobe, um, a man that's just afraid to
Take
get
that next
married.
step,
Yeah,
that one next level.
it's a comfort zone.
So the conversation, as far as how would she or he, because it could be opposite here, and not saying it's always the girl waiting on the guy. Sometimes it could be backwards. I don't know what your situation is, but
It could even be same-sex couples these days.
Yeah. And so, what things would you suggest? Talking with, if you're gonna have a conversation to broach marriage, is this something you want to ask that person? Hey, what is our goal? For where do you see you ask that your partner who hasn't taken that level with you. Where do you see us in 3 years? Where do you see us in 5? Where do you see us in 10? When you say that would be where you could maybe ask what the phobia might be. Like, hey, what are your fears if we got married? I know some men think that, oh, so now it's, your money, my money, now it's going to be our money. Maybe that fear that maybe the man won't have as much financial freedom anymore, or vice versa.
There can also be,
but those are things you can work through.
I mean, there's so many nuances in this. You could be dealing with a man boy. You're dealing with the guy that never wants to grow up. He'd rather just sit at home and play video games, go to work, buy the newest thing, have the newest Xbox, PS4, or whatever, play the newest Madden, and just doesn't want to get married because he doesn't want to have to grow up. That's a huge unfortunate thing that sometimes happens.
Financial fears, as in.
But how to broach the subject? It depends upon what your communication's like. If you have open communication, then start talking about it. One of the things that Jennifer and I, we were really good at it when we first started dating. We were very good at expressing exactly what we wanted. I told Jennifer our first date, I don't need to sleep with you. She was like, what? I was like, I would rather court you, because I was just coming out of a bad marriage. I would rather court you and see where this goes, and we don't need to sleep together until we're married. That's a very old-fashioned mindset. People say, well, you got to test drive the car. Women aren't cars, and neither are men. So, if you have that type of relationship where you have open communication, then maybe it's just good to just be straightforward. If you have a relation, because I'm telling you, guys are simple. Guys are very simple. We're not hard to figure out. We are little boys that want to be fed, that want to be patted on the head until we're doing a good job, want to take a nap, and we're not little boys in that regard, but want to have sex. It's pretty simple. So we're not hard to figure out. We don't say things veiled. We don't talk in riddles. We're pretty straightforward. And I know for myself, I don't appreciate being talked to in riddles. If you want to go have spaghetti tonight, tell me you want to go have spaghetti tonight. So speak to them directly. Now, if you're not in that type of relationship that you have to be a little more indirect, watching movies about people that haven't been married, that get married after a long time, watching rom-coms together, watching romantic movies together, and then talking about that. Hey, do you think you could ever see yourself being married? And bringing up subjects like that, listening to stuff on the radio, watching stuff on YouTube, watching Knucklehead's Guide to Marriage, stuff like that, to where it could start to open the conversation. And then there's other nuances between it, but the final one is this: determine whether or not that person is actually the individual that you're supposed to be married to. Or have you just been afraid to break it off because you don't know what else is out there, or you don't want to throw yourself out into dating? Or determine whether or not that person's really the person you're supposed to be with. And if you're faith-based, pray about it. God can give you a definite sign that that man or that woman is not the person you should have been with. And I will say this, and I don't care who sees it. Hold on a minute, because I had 3 beautiful kids out of it. I knew within a very short period of time that I should have not be marrying the woman that I married the first time. I knew it, and I did it anyway. And I suffered for it. And my kids are suffering for it. So, anyway. Sorry, I'm kind of bogarting the conversation.
It's okay. was thinking, what other apprehension would a man have? But I can answer because I was thinking about this ahead of time. One would be, well, I don't have enough money to buy her a decent engagement.
This is a knucklehead glitch. So, as you can tell, this is not the other video. About the last 10 minutes or so, the video got corrupted.
It started blurring.
Really bad.
It's like something started to blur it.
Yep.
So this is part 2 of Ask Jen and Dan. The proposal should. Yeah. Of the proposal.
So.
Question mark. Girl asking a guy to marry him.
Yeah, don't do that. Anyway, that's just my opinion. But
this is the wrap-up part.
When Jen and I got together, we weren't in the best financial situation, and because of that, you know, there's some intimidation factors right there. You know, where are you gonna? What wedding ring are you gonna buy? What size? Are you buying a solitaire? Are you buying a 1 carat? Are you gonna finance it? You're gonna pay cash? You're gonna sell your soul for it? I mean, there's so many different ways to do this. One suggestion, if you can't, because Jen and I have gone around shopping around different stores and found some really amazing stuff. We were actually at the mall one time and went into a Swarovski crystal store, and they had solitaires in there for like, what, $100?
$100.
And you'd never know.
And I was like, why didn't we go that route?
Right. You know? I mean, especially considering the situation we were in at the time,
yeah.
that totally would have been a solution. Mm-hmm. Something else that Jen and I did is that we eloped. And we got a lot of flack for it. I had to call my father-in-law and let him know the day that it happened, that we were leaving like the next day or something like that. Mm-hmm. But we eloped. We couldn't afford to. We couldn't afford the big wedding.
The hoopla wedding. We couldn't. Yeah, the grandioso wedding. So we just decided, let's get married on paper.
Yeah. So we took off to Texas and got married at a business conference.
Yeah, the Mary Kay
50th
anniversary seminar.
Right. And when we got back...
Talk about multitasking.
Right. When we got back, it took a few years for us to do that. That was July of 2013. And in September of 2017, we had the big wedding. But there's a lot of emotional stuff that happened in between those parts. In 2017, June of 2017, I had a heart attack. And I almost died. So, 3 months later, 2 months later, we're walking down the aisle. Give it a whole new meaning.
Right. So I guess what Dan's trying to say is you can get married on paper and it might not be what you wanted to start with, mm-hmm. but maybe the things will align later and you do get that big day. And trust me, it does not take away on your big wedding day if you already were married previously on paper. It doesn't make it any less special whatsoever. Right. Sometimes it makes it more meaningful. As Dan was just saying, he had that health scare. Yep. So we almost didn't make it to that wedding, that second wedding, the do-over, we call it.
You know what, actually, I'll provide the links in the description below for the 2 different weddings. You can see the difference between the 2.
Right. So, but even with regards to the jewelry, have that discussion with each other. Maybe the guy thinks the girl wants a $6,000 like engagement ring, and maybe that she doesn't care. Maybe she just wants to get married. Maybe she wants something a little bit more practical. But you know what's nice about practical is you start practical, and as the years progress, 5-year anniversaries, 10-year anniversaries, hey, we're talking upgrades.
Yeah, if that's what you want to do.
You can think about it that way as well. So
I know for me, the ring that I got when we got married is the ring that I'm sticking with. I don't need an upgrade for myself, but that's mm-hmm. me. I'm a simple guy. I'd rather spend. I'd rather have my wife. Seriously, I'd rather spend money on memories. Mm-hmm. Things to go do. I mean, since I've been with Jen, we've had some pretty incredible memories. One thing I'm having Jennifer do is she went through the other video that was all
buzzed out,
and she started taking notes. And we made some good points, and I don't want to miss those points. So what else? What's next? What's next?
What's next on the agenda is the whole. You're gonna have peaks and valleys as you're getting married. It's never a good time financially to get married, so that's why Dan was throwing out the idea about the jewelry. Have that discussion about the jewelry in the wedding if that's something that's keeping the fella from going forward. So have that communication. I also wanted to stress to the girl, please do not apologize for wanting to know where your life is headed with your partner. No. Please don't. It's your life. It involves not just one person, but both of you.
And maybe kids.
And maybe even kids.
And
right.
stepkids.
And it's okay to need to know where your life is headed. And it might be a situation where that person says that, they don't want to take that next step. So now you're going to have to ask yourself the $1 million question. Do I love this person enough to stay in the same place?
Yeah, there are examples of people that did that.
There are some happy couples.
You look at Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell. They've been together since the 80s. They've been together for like 40 years. And in public, they look happy. I don't know what it's like behind the scenes. I know that there have been studies done about the psychological effects of actually being married between a husband and a wife and between a man and a woman versus just living together. There's psychological benefits to the actual marriage union. I'm not going to get into that right now, but there are some. Right,
just offhand, if you have a spat, are you more likely to stay together if you're got the wedding bands on or if you just have a commitment? You can you push yourself that extra step to get through it, to work through it together because you're married. Right. It's got that higher level of intensity of that commitment. So.
One thing I did want to go back to that we were talking about is, guys, I mean this with all my heart. If you're not getting married because you're not in the right financial situation, you'll never be in the right financial situation. I'll give you an example. Back in '98 when I first got married to my first wife. Did I?
Yes.
I did. Okay.
Well, so you're never going to be in
you're never going to be in that situation.
State. But you can say that all day long, and I mean, some people have that mentality towards should we have kids. But I tell you what,
never be in that situation
never. But again, I think kids is way more complicated than just getting married. So if you even had kids together and you're not married, that's a cakewalk. Getting married is a cakewalk compared, I think, rearing kids because it's really expensive. But you're saying that ultimately, should they decide to just take the leap? If a guy's apprehensive, should he?
I actually, she just whispered it to me because the other one I said it. Just man up, dude. I'm sorry, just stop being a puss. Just step up. Especially if you know that your girl wants to get married and the only reason why you're not is because you're afraid. Come on now. Don't do that to her. A woman, I'm telling you, look at the psychological effects. Go do the research yourself. A woman is much more secure and happier when she's married, especially if she's giving you children, she's having sex with you, especially if she's living with you. If you're not marrying her because you're afraid or because you're waiting for something else to come along, bro, come on, don't do that. That's cold. That's really cold.
Don't stay out of convenience either.
Yeah, Jen did say something. She mentioned about if it's not the one. Think about that. If you can't see yourself staying with this person for the rest of your life, why are you there? Are you afraid you're going to hurt that person? Rip the Band-Aid. I know that's kind of a downer to end on, but is there anything else on that list that we haven't covered?
No, we pretty much covered everything. Don't apologize for needing to know where your life is headed. And it's okay that if they don't want to marry you, it's okay to say, that's my deal breaker. And it's you have to be honest and true to yourself.
That's true. Very, very true. I know for myself that Jen and I went through a rough time when we first got together. And I had to ask myself, is this really the person that I want to be with for the rest of my life? You're damn right. It was. I had to fight through some, we had to both work through some really, really hairy stuff. I'll just give you one quick example. I told her one time in an argument, my kids aren't replaceable, but you are.
Ooh,
and then she went and took off and stayed the night at her aunt's house. And the only way that I knew where she was is I found her car parked in front of her aunt's house. As her aunt was about to go hide it, I got out of the car. I told her, go get my wife now. And my aunt said, how about I call the cops instead? So I left. But that almost split us up. We had to go to counseling because that one,
we were already married then.
Yeah, I know that. But still, I crossed the line there.
Right.
Telling her what I told her. And then
I
she crossed my line
by
staying out all night.
Yeah, by going somewhere else.
So, look, guys, I mean, there's stuff that you may have to work through. Is she the one to fight for? Is she the one to spend the rest of your life with? I know my answer.
Yeah, they're not perfect.
No,
but are you perfect for each other?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, you want to say it?
Yep. Remember to like and subscribe.
And
Comment below or on the
or
side,
above, or
wherever it is.
Yeah, it is, because I know when I turn my phone sideways now, the comments are on the side. So, also, if you want to see the other two weddings, the first wedding and then the dream wedding, go ahead and look below. And I have to tell you something: the soundtrack for the second wedding, my wife put that soundtrack together, and we had people tell us it was the most romantic wedding they'd ever gone to. The lighting within the reception. The color schemes, everything. My wife put all of that together. So she's not a wedding planner by profession, but damn, she did a fantastic job.
Thank you.
And you'll see my dad in that, and he's gone. And they were an example of people that just couldn't be apart, so they died together after 52 years. So.
Yeah.
On that note, we'll see you next time.
See you next time.